Hello and welcome to a Talmud Israeli production. Today we'll review the highlights of this week's course of Daf Yomi study, Masechet Yevamot, pages 111 through 117. Kuf Yud Aleph. Hanoderet Hana'am Yevama B'chaye Ba'ala Kofin Oto Shiachal Otzla. If a woman were to vow not to have any benefit from her Yavam while her husband was still alive, meaning while this other man was actually not her Yavam yet, but rather just her brother-in-law, then we coerce upon this woman's husband's death the man to give her a chalitza. Meaning we don't hold it against the woman that she made such a vow because she wasn't thinking that her husband was going to die and that this other fellow was going to be her yavam. Lachamitat bala. However, if she made the vow after her husband had died, at a point at a juncture at which this other man, her brother-in-law, now really is her active yavam, waiting to marry her, then we'll simply request that the Yavam be nice enough to give this woman a chalitza, but we're not going to coerce it because we're sort of punishing the woman for having made a vow which precluded any yibum. However, if the woman had in mind to preclude the mitzvah of Yibum by making the vow, that was her intent all along, then even if she did so while her husband was still alive, before the brother-in-law was an active Yavam, then we will simply request that the man give her a chalitza, but we will not coerce him to do so. Then, Kuf Yud Bet, 112. Why is it that by rabbinical law, meaning not Torah law, but rabbinical law, there is nisuin, full-fledged marriage, for a deaf mute married to a deaf mute, two people with disabilities that make their union not recognized in Torah law, but we will fully recognize it even with nisuin in the rabbinical law, as opposed to shoteh v'shotah, a deranged man and woman, we will not recognize their union with nisuin. And the answer is cheresh v'chereshet dekayma dekanta rabbanon takinu l'rabbanon nisuin shota v'shota dekayma dekanta rabbanon dein daradam im nachash bekfifa achat takinu rabbanon nisuin. The answer is very straightforward. That a deaf mute is basically a normal person with disability, and they will be able to live a married life with their spouse. And so, since it is going to be it's going to be possible for them to have a nice life together, the rabbis will say, fine, we'll recognize the nisuin. However, a deranged person will not really be able to live a functional marriage because they're wild and crazy, and a person will not want to live with someone else b'kfifa, with a wild a snake, a nachash. Essentially, we're comparing the deranged person to the harmful effects of a snake. No one's going to want to live like that. So therefore, since it's not going to be a viable marriage, the rabbis did not ordain the recognition of a nisuin. Kuf Yud Gimel. Devar Torah, under Torah law, Shota mitgareshet midahava pikachas bal karcha. So under Torah law, a deranged woman can be the recipient of a get, of a divorce document, just like any woman, a mentally competent woman, could be coerced into divorce by having the get thrown her way, whether she wants it or not. That's the Torah law. However, so why did the rabbis establish that a shota, a deranged woman, cannot be divorced, cannot be the recipient of a get? Because we don't want her to be treated as hefker. This shota cannot protect herself from bad actors who might look to harm her in a sexual way. So we don't want her to be treated cavalierly. Therefore, she cannot be divorced. She remains in that marriage indefinitely. Kuf Yud Daled. Oved Kochavim. So a non-Jew b'Shabbat who comes to put out a fire on Shabbat, he's doing a favor for the Jew. We don't tell him, put it out, don't put it out. We don't give him instructions. He'll do what he wants to do. And if he happens to help us out in the process, so be it. And why do we not tell him one way or the other? Because we have no obligation to enforce his rest on the Sabbath. He doesn't have to rest on the Sabbath. He's a non-Jew. So he'll do whatever he wants. So we're not going to intrude upon his actions. However, katana balachabot, if a minor Jew were to want to put out a fire, we'll tell him don't put it out. Why? Because his obligation, the minor Jew's obligation to rest, is upon us. We have to teach the kid to do the right thing on Shabbos. So therefore, we'll tell him don't put out the fire. Kuf Tetvav 115. Matzah kli v'katuv alav kof korban Mem Maaser, Dalet Dimua, Tet Tevel, Taf Truma. So if a person finds an item, a vessel, and on it has a letter Kuf, it means this was part of a korban. If it has a letter Mem, it was tithe. If it has a Dalet, it was Dimua, a mixture of emoluments, Levitical emoluments, and Chulin. Tet, if it says the letter Tet, it means it's Tevel, it was untithed produce. If it has the letter Taf, it's Truma, the gift for the Kohen. B'shata sakanai kotvin Taf tachad Truma. And the hour of emergency, the tradition was they would write the letter Taf in place of Truma. So we're just giving some guidelines as to in the olden days when there were various types of foodstuffs that might have to be identified and labeled so that you should know how to treat them with what type of sanctity. These letters were used to identify various foodstuffs. Kuf Tet Zayin, 116. Iboilahu. Eidachad b'ktata mahu. So what's the rule about one witness being trusted to verify that a husband died so that a woman could remarry, but in a situation where there was ketata, there was ill will in the marriage? So why is one witness, generally speaking, believed? Because on something that's going to be revealed, the public is eventually going to know the truth. A person is disinclined to lie about that because they know that it'll be found out eventually. So here also, the guy's not going to lie because we'll find out the truth eventually. But maybe the real reason why we'll believe one witness is because the woman will investigate carefully that this statement of the one witness is true, and then she'll only remarry on the basis of her investigation that the testimony really was true. But here, where she wants to get out of a bad marriage, she's not going to investigate so carefully. She's happy to believe this report. And even without careful and thorough research as to the veracity of the report, she'll go ahead and marry. And that would be a problem, so maybe then we shouldn't believe it. Okay, Kuf Yud Zayin, 117. Eidachad Omer Meit. One witness says the husband died. V'niset, and the woman remarried. Another witness comes and says, no, he didn't die. So the wife does not leave her second husband, because we're not going to believe the second one, a solitary witness, any more than the first one. If one witness says that he died, and two witnesses say he did not die, then in that case, even if she were to get married, she would have to leave her second husband. Two people say he died, and one says he didn't die. Even if she didn't get remarried yet, go ahead and get remarried, because the one witness is nothing compared to the two. Everyone have a great week.